Hello, Troy Hurd here with Cedar Creek Dulcimers, and you're watching the first in a series of 5 lessons teaching my version of what I call chord melody style playing. Now, if you've not already watched the first video, Introduction to Chord Melody Playing, I encourage you to do so because I get a lot more in depth on that video on the advantages not only of the different sounds you can make, but the different keys you're able to play in as well. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that yet, go ahead and watch that as you get into this, and it'll help you understand more as we're going along. Okay, the first thing I want to do is go ahead and turn all the effects off my dulcimer so it has a more of a traditional dulcimer sound, which that's the neat thing about with just the push of the button, you can go from radical to traditional like that. Now this first song we're going to learn is a little diddly I came up with a while back called Emaze in G. And I was referring to the fact that I'm tuned in G, but I'm playing in the key of E minor. That's where the title came from. But it, first of all, believe it or not, started off as just a little exercise I was doing when I was trying out effects pedals after I got the first electric dulcimer done. Then I decided that would make a great exercise for teaching chord melody playing. So I went ahead and extended the song a little bit, threw in a key change, and here we are, Emaze in G. Now this song is using the 6-scale chord pattern I was talking about in the first video. So since I'm tuned to G, G is my first position, then I got A, B, C, D, E is that 6th position. So this pattern, E or E minor, we can play from either scale from this position that we're going to learn today. Okay, Emaze, using our E minor scale that's on our dulcimer that's tuned to G. So first of all, we're going to start off with a power E chord. Now with that power E chord, we're at the 1st fret on the 1st string, the 1st fret on the 2nd string, the 2nd fret on the bass string. There's our power E chord. Now once again, while the middle and the bass string are keeping the chord going, we're going to start playing melody over here on our first line. So power E chord. The first note is open on our melody. The first melody note is open. So we just take that pinky off on the 1st string, and there's our open note. Now the next note is number 1. So since that pinky is already there, I just go ahead and use that finger to play that note. Then the next note, number 2, and I'll use my thumb for that. 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So there's the first section of the song. Open, 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. One more time. Open, 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Now the next section of the song, we still stay on that power E chord, and it's going to go like this. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1. So here it is again. Here's that next section. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1. So when we put those two sections together, it sounds like this. Starting off with the power E chord. Open, 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1. So there's the first section of our song. If you want to, you can pause it to leave the numbers on the screen and practice this. Or if you're ready to move on, we'll move on to the next power chord and the next part of the song. Okay, the next section of the song starts off with a power D chord. Now watch closely because this is kind of tricky. You're going to take your pointed finger, you're going to hold down the 1st fret on your bass string, and you got you a power D chord. Now once again, the first note on this is an open note, which we're already doing because that's part of the power D chord. So we're going to go open, 1, 2, open, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So there's the next pattern. Open, 1, 2, open, 4, 3, 2, 1, open, or 0, whatever you want to call it. One more time. 0, 1, 2, 0, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So there's the next pattern to learn. Now when we put those two together, this is what it sounds like. Of course, we start off with our E chord, and it goes like this. And then we're back to the first pattern again. So there's the first whole big section of the song right there. And like I say, it just keeps repeating over and over. And at the end of this video, I will have the music all written out and showing you how many times I repeat each phrase or each stanza, whatever you want to call it. Okay, for this next section of the song, we're going to be back to our power E chord position. And this time, our melody notes are going to run as such. We're going to start at number 5 up here. Now that's the reason why I like to use my pinky, my middle finger, and this finger here. It just ends up giving me a little more stretch to reach as far as I can possibly reach. As I told you before in the chording section of the lessons, in lesson 3, use whatever fingers works for you, but that's the reason why I use the fingers I do. So, power E chord. Now we start off at number 5 for our melody note, and it goes like this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, 0. So there's the first part of that section. Power E chord, 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, 0. Now the next part of that section is again, we're staying on the E chord, and it's very similar to the first line you just learned, just a little variance at the end of it. So we're staying on our power E chord, and we start at 5 once again, but this time it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. So let's do that again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. So when we put the two of those together, it sounds like this. So the next part of the song is a little chord interlude. It starts off with a C chord, the 3rd fret on the 1st string, 3rd fret on the bass string, and then the 1st fret on the middle string right there. There's our C chord right there. So C chord, and it gets 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we move down to our D chord, which is the 2nd fret on the 1st string and the 1st fret on the bass string. Now 2 of the beats are just the chord. So 1, 2. But then we add a couple little melody runs in there, which the notes on, again, the bass string stays on that chord. And we move our melody note on down. So we got 1, 2, then the next melody note is a 1, open. So once again, let's recap that. So we got C, 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, then 2 beats on D, and then 1, 0 on the melody, and back to our E again. So let's do that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 0, power E chord. Now we'll get into timing a little bit later, and adding some little extra beats and stuff like that. But for right now, just to get the basic timing of the rhythm down, I think is the most important thing. So practice that. When you're ready to move on, we'll go into the next section of the song. Now for this next section of the song, we're going to get into our key change. We're changing from the key of E minor to the key of G. And the first chord that segues us into this is our C chord. So the C chord we're going to use is the one that's up here in the middle of the dulcimer. 6th fret on the 1st string, 3rd fret on the middle string, 5th fret on the bass string. Now that gets 4 beats. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. These 2 fingers move down 1 fret each to make the G chord. Now, as a whole G chord, it only gets the 1 beat. The other beats will have the melody added into them. So here's the other beat. So we start off with the 1 beat, then we go 4, 3, 5 on the melody note, and then 4 as we hit our D chord. So once again, here it is. So we start with the C. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'm going to call out melody notes for the next one. 5, 4, 3, 5, and then 4 as we go to a D chord. Now we drop down to our power D chord for another 4 beats. So here it is again. C, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now G with a 5, 4, 3, 5. D chord, 4. Now we repeat that again with a little bit of variance. We go back to the C chord. Now 3 of the beats are the chord. And then we add this little melody note in on the 7th fret. And then we break into, after that note, we break into our G chord. So here it is. C chord, 3 beats. 1, 2, 3. Now 7 on the melody. And we break down to our G chord. And again, we follow our pattern. 4, 3, 5, 4. So let's run that rhythm one more time. So starting off with our C chord. 1, 2, 3, add the 7, and then go down to our G chord. 5, 4, 3, 5, 4, and then the power D chord just like before. Now the C, 1, 2, 3, 7, 5, 4, 3, 5, 4. And add the 7 in again. 1, 2, 3, and then add the 7. 1, 2, 3. Now here's where we add in our transition chord that takes us back to the key of E minor. We're at the 5th fret on the 1st string, the 1st fret on the middle string, and then the 2nd fret on the bass string. Now, if you can't hit that chord, you can make the same transition chord up here. I just like the way it sounds down lower there, so that's why I use that lower version of it right there. And that is the neat thing about the traditional Ionian tuning. Since your thumb is the lead note, it gives you a lot more stretch you wouldn't normally have on the dulcimer in other tunings, for example. But if you cannot hit that lower E minor chord like I'm doing right there with the higher note up here, you can just play the whole thing up higher. So if you want to do the higher version of it, you're at the 5th fret here, the 3rd fret there, and the 5th fret there. That lower version I was doing, you're staying at the 5th fret here, but now you're at the 1st fret and the 2nd fret. So let me run through the whole thing one more time just to let you hear what it sounds like, and I'll do it at a slower speed. So it goes like this. So there's what it sounds like at a slower speed. Now, what I'll do one time, you can of course pause it and practice it and everything, but I'll play it a little more up to tempo with some little backbeats thrown in there too to let you hear the finished version of what it would sound like the way I would play it. So we're going to start off with that C chord. Then we break right back into the beginning. And so on and so forth. Now there's just one little section left, and that's at the very end of the song, the ending little line. And it's on just the melody line only. And it goes like this. You start at 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, 0, 2, 1, 0, 2, and then finish off with your E chord. Okay, Emaze from the top, slower tempo. There we go. Now, for those of you who do have one of our electric dulcimers, and if you are using this little pop rock like I'm using right here, this is actually the device I used when I did the recording a while back as well. But now, first thing first, there's a lot of presets that are already on the pop rock. So that's the first thing that I recommend doing for you, is if you just go through and try the different presets out until you find one you like. Now for this sound, if you want a preset and you don't want to do any of the knobs yourself, A1 is a really good setting for getting that same sound. I got on the video. But I actually, on the video, I did the settings myself, because you can either have the access to all those presets, or you got all these different effects that you can change yourself, so you can kind of customize them a little more the way you like. So let's start here at the bottom left. For this song, I had my delay, if you can see, that is just barely on delay. And then this little other effect called the flanger. Once again, I just barely have it on to where the flanger is just barely on. My gain over here is at about the 1 o'clock position. The drive over here is on CR. And then my tone over here, actually that's supposed to be right at 12 o'clock right there. And so that's the effect I used when I was playing on that video. Now, if you want more of that jet plane sound that it makes, you would turn more flanger up, and that would give you more of that sound like a jet plane taking off. But that's the idea, where if you do the effects yourself, you can kind of customize and make them sound the way that you want them to sound by just tweaking it ever so slightly. Now, the next thing I want to show you for the effects on that is something that was done on my right hand. And let me switch the camera and we'll show you that next. So the next sound I want to show you is not actually done with an effects pedal, but it's done with your strumming hand. And it's what I call the choke effect. So we're going to take the side of our hand and rest it right on top of the bridge. Then when we bring our hand around to strum, the palm of our hand is going to be muting the strings out. So instead of allowing the strings to ring freely like normal, it's going to give us a muted effect like this. And then as we ease the pressure up and we allow the strings to vibrate like normal, we get the full sound of the effects out of it. And this is not only a technique I use on the electric dulcimer, but I use it on my acoustic as well. And quite a few songs, like some other tunes I have used it on the videos, Every Breath You Take. That's how I started off that song, was with that choke effect. So that's just a fun little thing you can add to your song to, again, to change the tone and spice up the flavor of the music. Well, that about wraps up our time here in the Emaze for now, but feel free to come back and visit just as often as you would like. I think the good thing about learning this for our first tune is the fact that nobody else knows the song. So number one, they can't tell you if you're doing it wrong. Number two is it allows you to make the song your own. So practice with different rhythms, practice with different timing of the notes. And if you have the electric dulcimer, practice with different sounds. Just have fun with it, make it your own as you're learning this exercise. Now, as we get into the next lesson in this series, we will be starting to play tunes that you actually know. Because as I told you in the introduction video, that one of the advantages and the biggest advantage that we have when we use chord melody playing, it allows us to play songs that we didn't think we could play on our dulcimer without adding in extra frets, you know, a 1.5, an 8.5, or even a 3.5 or a 0.5 fret. So in this next song that we're going to be doing in this series, we're going to be learning how to access the 5th scale position. So since I'm tuned to G, for example, G, A, B, C, D, that means it's going to be the D scale position. Well, in that position, if I have a song that needs a 1.5 fret or an 8.5 fret, I'm going to be able to play those songs without having to have those frets added to my dulcimer. So we'll have a lot of fun when we get into that. But in the meantime, have fun picking around in the Emaze, and we will see you next time.